Everyone's doing well and having a nice weekend. Today's video, a movie that I just saw on DVD and show off collectibles that I've added to my horror center.
Character of Daffy
Is the collection 10th anniversary Freddy vs. Jason T-shirt. I went to the Image Expo.
It's called the Miss Misery Horror Convention.
Nightmare Before original television soundtrack of one of my favorite films of all time. Salems
So
Lot.
that's what this video is about
If
today.
everybody enjoys this video, and please stay tuned. Hey everyone, it's Boogeyman Ben. Hope everyone's doing well and everyone had a nice day. This video is going to be for my friend Frank, who's a YouTuber. Awesome guy who's commented on many of my videos that I've done. Once I did the Scream retrospective, or the Scream run through of all the films for Michael Voorhees, he asked me if I had ever done a video of my top 10 horror films of all time. Well, Frank, I want to stop you right there from even trying to go through my videos and look, because it doesn't exist. I've never done one video where I talked about my favorite films, my favorite horror films of all time, my top 10. And it was a really hard list, but I was able to compile my top 10 horror films of all time. So Frank, this is for you. I hope you enjoy it, and hope everyone else enjoys it as well, and please stay tuned. Okay, starting with number 10. Number 10, favorite horror film of all time is Freddy vs. Jason. Now, I know this movie is polarizing. There's a lot of people that really don't like it. Some wouldn't even consider it a horror film, since it plays out more like a black comedy. Or, you know, more of a, it's almost like a fan film. It was a film made for the fans. In my opinion, it was. But this movie took forever to get made. I remember hearing about it in the 80s, probably around, like, 88, 89. And I was a kid at the time. I was like 13, 14. And I was like, that would be awesome to see Freddy and Jason fight in a movie. I'd have to wait until I was almost 30 for this movie to come out. So it was like something that you just wait and wait and wait for. And it would have had to really, really suck for me to not like it. But yeah, I love this film. Despite my issue with Kane Hodder not playing Jason in this, I still think it's a great film. I have a lot of fun watching it. And I still think it holds up. It's Robert Englund's swan song as Freddy Krueger, who is going to be, in my opinion, the only person to ever play Freddy Krueger. Just awesome film. Love it 100%. Number 10 on my list is Freddy vs. Jason. Number 9 on my list is An American Werewolf in London. Now, this film was the first film, one of the first films, I'll say that, one of the first films to ever really scare the shit out of me completely. The werewolf creature in this, it's so funny to watch now how Rick Baker and crew created this, and but as a kid, this movie terrified me. Even though it's got a lot of humor in it, it balances it really well, and this movie was really ahead of its time, because, films like Scream and those kinds of films that peaked in like the mid-90s, this movie came out in 81, and a lot of people didn't know what to make of it, because it had, very humorous scenes like a comedy, but it had very sad, kind of creepy moments as well. So it's like, a lot of people didn't know what to make of it. They couldn't understand, the balance of it. But I think it plays really well. I think the comedy works. I think the horror works. The tension's in there. I love all the characters in it. I think everybody plays their part so beautifully. And I think the Werewolf Creature is still the scariest one ever put on film. And this is my favorite horror film, and one of my favorite horror films, and my favorite werewolf film of all time. Number 9, American Werewolf in London. Number 8 on my list would be Stephen King's Pet Sematary. I've read the novel. I love the movie. It was one of the Stephen King movies that just really stuck with me after watching it. Pet Sematary is one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. I think it's an adaptation that was done beautifully, because Stephen King actually adapted it. I love the cast, and a lot of people have said that, like, Dale Midkiff and Denise Crosby are very wooden in this film, that Fred Gwynne is like the one point of the film, and Brad Greenquist, who played Pascal, those two actors are the ones that kind of shine in this, but I like everybody in this film. And I just think this film is terrifying. It's really just got a very spooky atmosphere. It's full of dread from frame one. I think the entire cast does an amazing job in this, as does Mary Lambert directing. Number 7 on my list is Fright Night, the original 1985 film, written and directed by Tom Holland, starring Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, Amanda Burr, Stephen Jeffries, and the late, great Roddy McDowall. Absolutely love this film. This is one of my favorite vampire films of all time. Idolized this film growing up. I used to watch it all the time. Really was a big fan of Stephen Jeffries. He was the reason I initially watched this film in the first place. Was a fan of him from other films that I had seen him in. But I think his Evil Ed is one of my favorite horror characters of all time. And I just, again, love the balance in this. Perfectly blends the humor with the horror, just like American Werewolf in London. And I think everybody in this film just does an amazing, amazing job. And Tom Holland is one of my favorite horror film directors, and he knocks this one out of the park. Number 6 on my list is Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. This was the first Friday the 13th film that made me a fan of Jason. This is where, of course, he got the famous hockey mask, and he was played by the late, great Richard Brooker, who unfortunately passed away last year. Rest in peace, Richard. The performance that Richard gave in this just made me a fan of Jason. Jason was so creepy in this. I did like Jason in Friday the 13th Part 2, but this is the film where I took notice. I thought Jason really got his look. It was defined very well in this. It's not so much the acting in this film. I think it's, it's okay. But there's some characters, like the Shelley character played by Larry Zerner. He's just so much fun in this film. And, there's a heart to that character. And I thought that Steve Miner did a great job directing it. And the 3D effects, even though they're corny to some, I still think they're great. And I absolutely love this film. Number 5 on my list is Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. Absolutely love this film. This is probably one of the scariest Friday the 13th films ever made. I think it's scarier than the original. I think Ted White was an amazing Jason in this. I'm glad that he's finally accepting the fact that he played this character and is taking the recognition he so deserves. He did a fantastic job in this film, as does Corey Feldman, as Tommy Jarvis. Just an amazing cast. Of course, you have Crispin Glover. I also thought that Kimberly Beck and Peter Barton did great jobs in this, and that Joe Zito did an amazing job directing. So, number 5 on my list is Friday the 13th Final Chapter. Love this film. Now, this is my list, so these are going to be my rules. So, there are going to be some ties in this. They're just films that I love too much to break them up. So, my number 4 is going to be a tie between John Carpenter's Halloween and Halloween 2, which was written by John Carpenter, but directed by Rick Rosenthal. I love both of these films exactly the same. They are one story, and I think if they were ever just going to make one story about Michael Myers, this is the perfect story. I love the Halloween sequels, Good, Bad, or Indifferent, but these two films are just so amazing and just so well done, and they're always going to be my favorite Halloween films. And I can't say enough good things about them. I love everything about them. Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, is amazing in this, and the late, great Donald Pleasance, who I've always been a huge fan of, and just absolutely love him as Dr. Loomis. There's no one else that can touch that part. I thought Malcolm McDowell did a good job playing him, but no one else will be able to touch that character and play him as good as Donald Pleasance did. I mean, he just is amazing, and he was the heart of the Halloween franchise, and I just absolutely love these films. I think they're well written. They're very scary. I think Halloween 2 has just as much tension as Halloween 1. A lot of people crap on this film, and I don't know why. Absolutely love these films. Number 4 on my list, Halloween and Halloween 2. Now, I have another 2 that are tied together, and that would be my number 3, which would be Psycho, the original Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock, and Psycho 2. I love both these films equally. Sometimes I have a hard time picking which one's my absolute favorite, because Psycho 2 introduced me to this series, and I've always held it really close to my heart. I absolutely love this film. But the original Psycho is one of the best horror films ever made. It's one of the first slasher films ever made, and I still think it's Alfred Hitchcock's best film. But I absolutely love this film too. I think that Tom Holland wrote a terrific script. Richard Franklin did a terrific job, and who can say enough good things about the late great Anthony Perkins? Awesome. The only person that will ever be Norman Bates. Like I said, I love the show Bates Motel, and Freddie Highmore is doing a good job of making Norman Bates his own character. But for me, Anthony Perkins will always be Norman Bates. Absolutely love these movies. They are awesome, and my number 3 in my top 10. Love Psycho and Psycho 2. Number 2 on my list is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. This is my favorite Friday the 13th film. I'll say it from now until the day I die. I absolutely love this film. I think it's the best written Friday the 13th out of all of them, out of all 12, including Freddy vs. Jason. This is the best written in my opinion. I think Tom McLaughlin did an amazing job writing and directing this film. I think everybody in this film is just amazing. Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis is very good in this. Even though I preferred John Shepard's portrayal of the character in Part 5, I think Tom Matthews does a great job in this film. But you have some great character actors in this, and I can't say enough good things about C.J. Graham, who played Jason in this film. He will always be my favorite actor to play Jason. I love Kane Hodder, I love Derek Mears, I love Ted White and Richard Brooker, but there's just something about C.J. Graham's performance as the character in this film that will always be my favorite of all time. So absolutely love this film, 100%. I've said it a million times before, so I won't bore everybody with it, but number 2 on my list, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. And now for my number 1. My number 1 horror film of all time is Salem's Lot. This film is the first film that ever scared me. It's the first film I ever remember having an effect on me. And no matter how many times I've seen this film, no matter how many times I've talked about this film, no matter how many times I've been to the town where they filmed it, the mystique and the love I have for the mystique of this film and the love I have for it will never die. I absolutely love this film. I don't know why. I know it was a television movie. I know that there's, scenes, it's a very long film. There's a lot of things that are drawn out. But there's nothing about this film that bores me. I think it's an absolutely phenomenal film. I think everybody that is in it is top-notch. Reggie Nalder, James Mason, David Soul, Lou Ayres, Bonnie Bedelia, Jeffrey Lewis, Barney McFadden, Fred Willard. Everybody that is in this film is fucking fantastic. Lance Kerwin, awesome direction by Tobe Hooper. There's just nothing I can say other than it's my favorite horror film. It always will be. I was going back and forth between Friday the 13th Part 6 and this one, but this is going to be my favorite horror film of all time. I just absolutely love it. I'm so glad that there's that new book that's coming out on it. I hope one day we'll get a special edition DVD because I think it so deserves it. It still has its scare factor. The music in it is absolutely chilling to listen to, and I can't say enough good things about it. So number 1 on my list is Salem's Lot, absolutely favorite horror film of all time. And that's it. Frank, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share your thoughts with me in the comments below. I'd like to hear what other people think about my list. If you like the films that I like too, cool. If you don't, please, just doesn't matter to me. Just share what you think. It doesn't matter to me. Not everyone has to agree with me. This is my list. And I want to thank everyone for watching, and I hope everyone has a great evening, and I'll see you next time for some new videos. So everybody have a nice evening. Take it easy.